Welcome, every tarnished, to Colossal Rot. With the new buff, yeah, that one, 2 colossal weapons. Of course, I wanted to do something with a colossal weapon. And there's always been one that I've had my eye on, both because it's a naturally incredibly powerful weapon, and also it's one of the few rare rot weapons that you can put any Ash of War on you want. And that seems like a match made in heaven. Proccing rot for both huge damage over time and a massive damage bump from the build itself, actually adding in a little bit of frost, which this weapon excels at with over 150 build-up without losing any of the rot, and indeed none of the power. You get the situation where the raw output is meaty hit after meaty hit for thousands upon thousands of damage, with frost proccing, popping, and debuffing them, along with rot doing the same as it buffs you. Obviously, all of this packaged within the newly buffed Lion's Claw, with how quickly it goes off, with how much damage it does, and you essentially just become a one-man army, a mushroom gladiator of untold death.
Are you not entertained?
I realize, yes, that Mushroom Gladiator is probably one of the least cool variants of Gladiator, but I'm doing the best of what I can here. So let's start with the weapon itself then. You get this from the consecrated snowfield, and it drops from a rotten duelist who is contemplating his existence on the ridge.
Why are we still here?
Well, let's make him have no existence left to contemplate and take his weapon. This is the star of the show, the Rotten Greataxe. Not only does it look absolutely swish, the flecks of red, the snake motifs, it's just a badass battle axe. It has one of the highest base damage values of all the weapons in the game, and certainly for the Colossal class, coming with 65 base rot build-up on it, and obviously being Ash of Warable, combined with that Colossal moveset speed increase. Well, it's just an incredibly solid, meaty weapon that lets you do a lot of fun things with it. And, well, this is one of those fun things. So we're going to put it to cold affinity, and the reason we're going to do that is uniquely this weapon still retains a B scaling index, which is solid enough, and indeed it doesn't get a higher than B no matter what affinity you set to. So you're essentially gaining this massive amount of frost buildup without actually losing the high damage scaling potential of the weapon, which means you're still like one-shotting giants, 3.5k flip slam, but you have that frost building up in 2-3 hits as an extra burst of damage, and it's just wonderful. It feels great to use. You are incredibly deadly with this build without the rot and the frost coming into play. With them, it just pushes it over the top. Especially in PvP, where people just can't trade with you anyway. This might as well be called Vigor Check the build, because coupled with the hyper armor of being in the air, the increased speed of Lion's Claw, you just end up absolutely destroying people who think they can trade with you when they really, really can't. You don't even need the Rotten Frost, but it is a nice threatening backup if a fight goes on too long, but chiefly they are there to make bosses a lot easier. Lion's Claw then, as the secondary star of this show, is gotten from Kaled, and you simply kill the Lion Guardian in this fort, and job is a good one. Nothing to worry about there. So what is the surrounding accoutrement to this whole setup? Well, of course, the Mushroom Crown gives you an extra 10% all damage when rot or poison procs, which is why we're using it. If you don't care about that 10% and don't want to be a Mushroom Gladiator, don't like the aesthetic, I don't blame you. Then pop on whatever you like. It can live without that bump, but hey, I'm here to show you the most optimized version of things. Talisman-wise then, of course, we want Shard of Alexander from the end of Alexander's questline for an extra 15% damage on that Lion's Claw. We want the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation for an extra 20% all damage when that rot goes off, which is massive considering how much damage this already does by default. You get that from the final boss in the Seathwater Cave at the end of the Seathwater River in Mount Gelmir. That's all well and good. The next talisman slot then goes to the Magic Scorpion. This is one of the advantages of this working so well with Frost and coming with such hefty magic damage. damage. A lot of enemies in the game are weak to magic damage, and suddenly even fewer still actually resist it. So this talisman from Seluvis's questline just adds that extra oomph because Lion's Claw uses your weapon damage, magic included, when it goes off, which is great. And that leads us nicely into the Wondrous Physic, where we want the magic amping tier. I've also got the heavy charged attack tier in here, which combined with our final talisman slot, which is a flexible slot, I've gone for the heavy attack axe talisman, but you can earn 3+2, you can less FP on skills, because Lion's Claw is quite FP hungry, though on just 16 mind you can cast it 5 times before a flask, which is plenty, but in any case, these combined together mean that the heavy attack is almost as powerful as Lion's Claw itself, which means if you have time to do it, especially with the now buff on Colossals, you really are going to absolutely clean house, and it's another little facet of this. I really love this weapon and what it lets you do with this build. And that's kind of it, that's your basic setup. Obviously, I'm adding in Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength, that's just nice. The general buff amps, they go on everything, they just make the game better for up to 90 seconds, you know what I mean? But it certainly doesn't need them, but it's more of a might as well at this point. But the general play here is you just have this incredibly fast-swinging, meaty colossal weapon whose raw damage is excessively good. You cleave through everything, trade with hyper armor, spam Lion's Claw whenever there's an opportunity with massive stagger damage, get those crit hits in, use your heavy attacks for thunderous blows too, and generally mushroom gladiator your way through the game, and nothing's really able to stop you. This isn't about killing bosses in one attack, it isn't about breaking the game, it's just ludicrously solid. It is a way to play with real power and actual longevity where it's all about your actual attacks. Lion's Claw spam is obviously great, but your actual hits here are really shining, and that's awesome. It's nice to have a build that's more well-rounded about the moveset and the weapon as opposed to spam this thing, okay, you're good, and it's really a lot of fun to play, especially in PvP, as I hinted on earlier, but people just do not respect it. They don't respect the damage, and they don't respect the speed and hyper armor of Lion's Claw, and you can engineer situation after situation where you only need to land this once, and you're good. The Frost build-up is such that about 3 Lion's Claws or 2 normal two-handed hits are enough to make it happen. Rot takes a little bit longer at about 5 hits, but at that point you have most certainly won the fight, but it's a lovely little backup to have. You can do this entire build on the regular Gladiator's Greataxe and have a little bit more damage but no rot, but you know, what's wrong with having that little extra backup spice in case you need it? Not that I would call rot spice, but I guess I just did. Thanks, Melania. Stat-wise, fairly simple spread. This is a fairly low-level-ish 133 build, just enough to make the weapon kick, enough to hit that soft cap on dex, enough to fuel the various aspects that you need, nothing really special or crazy going on there. So yeah, there's not a lot to go into this and not a lot to say, but for me, this is probably one of, if not my favorite colossal weapon. I love how it works, I love how it looks, and you can really give it a really nice sending out with this setup. A Frost Rot Colossal freight train of pain at your fingertips. I hope you've enjoyed this then. I hope you are inspired to try it yourself, and like if you did indeed enjoy it. Subscribe for more, hit the bell, don't miss future guides, tips, tricks, builds, funny bits, all that good stuff, and until we meet again, consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below. A goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.